Welcome to your Barbados Today evening news update for Wednesday, November 27. Thanks for joining us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Government is offering a 30-year concession to a private investor to pump some $150 million in expanding, operating and improving operations of the Grantley Adams International Airport through a private-public sector partnership. Minister of Tourism and International Transport Kerry Simmons said it was necessary for that port of entry to be redeveloped as government seeks to make Barbados a year-round destination and to better accommodate the expected influx of visitors while increasing the airport's revenue. He was speaking at a half-day local investor conference at the Lloyd's King Sandiford Centre.
Over the life of the concession, which is expected to be, well, not expected, will be 30 years, there is an intention for there to be $130 million to $150 million being invested in the airport in terms of expansion and development over the period of that 30 years. For the first 4 years, however, there's a mandatory expenditure which cannot be compromised, and that has been costed out to do a number of initial fundamentals as far as I'm concerned. And that is to be done within the first 4 years of the life of the investment, and that's a $54 million commitment. So whoever wins the concession will be expected to be able to finance that. And part and parcel of the way in which we determine the concession is that they have those people who put in proposals have to be able to demonstrate that they've run an airport of this size, that they have been able to build capacity in that airport, that they have an ability to raise revenue of the type that we are trying to make sure is raised, so that we're looking at your experience, your capacity, your record of competence, etc.
Simmons further explained that government will retain ownership of the airport over the period, while the private operator will only have the right to use the airport's assets and invest and expand the airport. He revealed there has already been a favorable response from investors.
Thus far, I am only aware of about 14 or 15, but those are airport developers drawn from around the world. It is possible that there may be more. When I was in Ireland 2 weeks ago at the Global Airports Development Conference, that was the purpose of the visit, really to sit down, well, first of all, to launch the process by way of notification, allow them to start to have verbal expressions of interest, because obviously people want to know more and more about it. And in the space of the 2 days that I was there, I would have met with 12. And subsequently, I'm aware of 2 others.
In other news this Wednesday, Senator Monique Tate took the government to task for continually allowing rushed and incomplete legislation to be drafted and sent to the upper house. The senator was speaking during the debate on the Queen Elizabeth Hospital Amendment Bill 2019. Tate insisted that government must do better and stop insulting senators with bad legislation.
You cannot be drafting like we are a banana republic, Mr. President. The way that we're getting this type of legislation with all this kind of uncertainty and all this lack of clarity suggests that we do not know what we are doing. That is not right. And if you're going to draft like that, bring somebody from CPC or whoever is responsible for drafting and put them to sit here so that when we have queries, they can be corrected on the spot. This is nonsense. This should never come to us like this. This Senate is highly qualified. It has highly qualified persons who are reviewing this legislation for real. The submissions that we get in the Senate are not from people who are not reading. Don't mind we're paid $1,479.07 a month. Don't mind that.
Only that?
Only that, Senator Moore.
I don't see it.
You don't see it? Oh. The point is, we're reading. We're doing research. We are paying attention. Stop disrespecting us by sending this type of legislation up here.
Meanwhile, Independent Senator Dr. Christopher Maynard called for improvements to the operations of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. He lamented that the hospital was grappling to cope with shortages.
This audit and this shutdown of the supply chain coincided with government's internal debt restructuring, when suppliers were being offered 85 cents in dollar terms. There were separate issues, however, when they were put together, it made matters worse. We have not recovered, and we continue to have shortages, some of which are almost impossible to fix.
Police are continuing the search for 3 masked men following a shooting incident at Beckwith Street, St. Michael last night. 23-year-old Akil Amar Junai of Beckwith Street was shot in the right buttock and his right thigh around 9:40 following a scuffle involving 3 masked men. Police are asking anyone with information that can assist in the investigation to contact police emergency at 211, Crime Stoppers at 1-800-8477 or any police station.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Craft Center. Kick off the weekend this Friday from 4 p.m. to midnight with loads of food, drinks, and entertainment. Get ready for Crop Over with the Rhythm Roots Street Parade. Party like it's Kadooman Day on the street around Pelican Village with costume reveler, music, and more. It's Festive Friday. It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Village Center from 4 p.m. to midnight. Admission free.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news now. In the Bahamas, a noted attorney questions the government's motive after Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis sounded support for the decriminalization of marijuana and expunging the records of Bahamians convicted of having small quantities of the drug in their possession. More from Clint Watson of Eyewitness News.
Noted attorney and Queen's Counsel Wayne Munro blunted his view on the Prime Minister's pronouncement to see the records expunged for Bahamians charged with possession of small quantities of marijuana. Munro says someone is playing a game because the law already makes provision for this.
The whole debate is on a false narrative. Firstly, in terms of expunging criminal records, the policy of the drug courts for people found with small quantities of marijuana is to impose a conditional discharge, the condition being that you get drug treatment and that you stay drug-free. The thought there is that you are a victim as much as anybody else, so let's get you some help, let's get you treatment, let's not punish you. Even if you ended up with a sentence because you came before a magistrate who didn't really understand the policy or you didn't satisfy the condition, the conviction would be expunged by operation of law in 1991. The period of time was after 7 years, and it was reduced in 2015 to 5 years for adults, 2.5 years for minors.
In fact, Munro says the law was revised in 2015 and should have been debated in Parliament, which means the Prime Minister would have been privy to this as he was a member of Parliament at the time. As for decriminalizing marijuana for medicinal use, also supported by the Prime Minister publicly last week, well, Munro says that too is already on the books.
Medicinal use of marijuana has never been illegal in the Bahamas, as in fact has the medicinal use of opium, opiate painkillers, or cocaine, the medicinal use of cocaine and lidocaine and other, I think it's what they call anesthetics.
And on the international front, 2 winter storms blasted parts of the United States today, disrupting travel plans for millions of Americans who typically jam the country's highways and airports to visit friends and family over the long Thanksgiving weekend.
2 winter storms pummeled parts of the U.S. Wednesday, disrupting travel plans for millions of Americans ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday.
Gotta make a flight in 2 hours.
The Denver area was blanketed in white, with well over a foot in Boulder.
This is a lot for Boulder. It doesn't happen too often like this.
That same system then clobbered Minnesota's Twin Cities region with up to a foot of snow. 1/4 of the 103 U.S. flights canceled by Wednesday morning were in and out of the Twin Cities MSP airport, according to an airline tracking site. The storm, which is also packing high winds, moves east Wednesday across upper Michigan and upstate New York towards central Maine. In New York City, expected wind gusts of up to 40 miles per hour are threatening to ground the 16 giant balloons that are the main attractions of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Organizers said they will make a decision on whether they float along the parade route Thursday morning. On the West Coast, a second major storm slammed Oregon and Northern California, where damaging winds, coastal flooding, and heavy mountain snows of up to 4 feet are forecast. The front was expected to dump heavy rain, threatening flash floods from San Diego to Los Angeles.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadstoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Frenella Wedderburn. Good evening.